right, guys.
All right, man.
Right.
We haven't done Korracast in a while. Let's see how this goes.
I'm excited
What's
to
that?
be back in the set.
Wait,
Hey,
why
what
is there a guy on our couch?
I don't like it.
Hey,
No, this is a Gurkha.
what is there a homeless guy doing in our set that we're about to film inside of?
The Dirty Walker!
Welcome to a very special episode of Korracast.
In case you forgot, my name is Vince.
I'm Ryan.
My name is Matt. Today's special
I'm Sean!
When we last left off, we had finished reviewing Korra Season 1. And until Korra Season 2 comes out, which we don't know when that is, we're going to be reviewing The Promise, which is a graphic novel split up into 3 parts that bridges the gap between Avatar and The Legend of Korra. Today, we're bringing you Part 1.
Before we start our review, let's do a recap.
Alright!
In part 1 of The Promise, immediately after the events of Sozin's Comet, and I mean immediately, Zuko makes Aang promise to end him if Zuko ever becomes like his father. 1 year later, Aang and the others carry out the Harmony Restoration Movement, a plan to dissolve all the fire colonies in the Earth Kingdom. But Zuko stops the relocation when he learns that many Fire Nation citizens consider the Earth Kingdom their home. Aang and Zuko fight over Zuko's apparent betrayal, and Aang enters the Avatar state. But Katara calms him down before he can kill Zuko. They agree to a truce for the time being, and Zuko resorts to asking his imprisoned father for advice.
So guys, what did you think of The Promise Part 1?
I liked it. Got to see some old returns of the characters that we all like.
Good to see Aang, kind of a little older, but kind of the same old guy we all loved from before.
I'm glad that it picked up right where Avatar The Last Airbender left off. I mean, exactly to the point when Aang and Katara are kissing. And then I like that they added a little comical thing with Sokka walking in on that.
Honestly, I thought it was weird that it was a comic book.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that it was a different medium. We're dealing with a comic book here instead of, a TV show.
In the case of Avatar, obviously they felt like a cartoon show was the best way to tell their story. So this is probably, for the writers and the people behind it, them going out of their comfort zone. Yeah, I thought for the most part it worked pretty well. What do you think, Hobo Sean?
Actually, yeah. I mean, it was kind of cool because immediately when you start off, the first page is the intro to the show. And so you immediately get the familiar element of any Avatar episode. But it's a little bit different because, boom, you fill the page in 1 second and you kind of take it all in at you, as opposed to something that's, over, 10-second periods.
I think the biggest limitation of doing it in the comic book is that we don't get the music, and Avatar has great music.
For me though, just being such a big fan of the show and just knowing everything about it, when I was reading the panels, I was imagining everything like I was in that universe, hearing the music in the back.
so did I.
The track team was playing.
And that would come back to what Sean said, that seeing that intro as the first thing we see, the music already cues in our brain for that.
Right.
I mean, I think that's an interesting question, though. Is like, imagine if you had never seen an episode before. Would you enjoy this as much? I mean, obviously that's something we can't necessarily answer.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job of getting the world across, but obviously the character, all those elements, just wouldn't be the same.
What did you guys think about the pacing of the storytelling?
I think it's kind of important to mention this, that before we kind of understand how the flow of this works, we have to actually read all 3 parts.
Well, I mean, I understand that too, but I think that you still judge each thing as imagine it's a 3-part episode.
Yeah,
I think each one still has to stand on its own, and I think for the most part it does. I think it reads really fast. So I think in that sense the pacing's really good. In terms of the actual story, I mean, that's something else entirely, not specifically to the medium, but I think they do a good job of kind of capturing a feel of an episode of Avatar. But this kind of brings up another point that I was thinking about, is that does a lot of the stuff that you take for granted in watching an episode, like Ryan was saying with the music, but also just like the tone of the characters speaking and just the movement, a lot more comes across, and it's harder to convey those things than I think itself. In a couple instances, I was confused, not so much like just completely like, who's that character? I know who Aang is, but a couple of motivationally, I was confused from frame to frame or exactly what was happening. So in that sense, I think I don't want to say it suffered, because I don't think it necessarily suffered, but I do think there was a little bit of lost in translation in that regard.
One of the things I really want to talk about, though, is the actual storyline. Colonization is obviously a big theme. Talk about that. Talk about it.
I'm gonna talk, Chewie. I'm gonna talk about that now. And here's what I'm gonna say when I'm gonna talk about that. These are the words that you're about to hear.
Okay. All right, maybe I'll just start it off.
Vince, take it off.
Okay, so the whole point of this, at least it seems like from part 1, is that this Udao place is going to be Republic's. What's it called?
Udo, right?
Udo, yeah. Udo is going to be Republic City eventually. That's what it seems like it's leading up.
Well, one of the things that it's obviously drawing a lot upon things that have actually happened in the real world, or our world at least. That to suggest that this isn't the real world? What did I just
Scientists
say?
have discovered that we're in a computer simulation.
I actually heard about that.
Scientists have discovered that we are probably in a computer simulation.
Yeah, science discovered that.
No, I will send you...
Bob
Like,
Science.
this theory has been around for a while. And
Yeah, they just found like evidence of it though.
What? What should I do?
That
I don't know what to do.
So we're in Avatar.
what if Avatar is the real world?
So Ryan, you just mentioned that this mirrors the real world. Please explain what you mean by that.
Let me explain to you, Chewy. Well, I thought it replicated some of the things that have happened, like in South America and in.
Oh, are
like,
you talking about like the conquistadors?
That is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Just in how this, when you have two different cultures and they will mix together and then they'll have children and then they'll be the product, of those separate cultures, and it's like, what is their true heritage?
But even more relevant, I think, really topical is in the Middle East, Israel and Palestine. I think there's obviously some difference, but I think it's just the matter of cultures. Like, what gives someone the right to say, no, I belong here and you don't?
Aang comes in and he's trying to save the world by segregating it?
Well, that's the whole point of the harmony restoration movement, right? It's like, yeah, you go over there, you guys, you go back over there.
They say it's balanced if there's 4 separate, mutually exclusive nations, but wouldn't you say that peace could be achieved through coexistence?
Wouldn't it even be better?
So we can obviously kind of see where this is going to lead, that Aang's going to learn, as well as hopefully the rest of the world in the moment. But I mean, even the term, harmony. Harmony is a conflagration.
Nope, that's fire.
Try again.
It's fire.
Harmony is...
The conflab
shoe.
Collaboration?
No, are you grabbing from Rugrats?
Harmony is an amalgamation of different sounds coming together to create a new sound that's better than individual. So I think, obviously, you could kind of draw conclusions from the name of the whole point of the movement to begin with.
Yeah. So Aang might not even understand the movement that he's starting.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, it is just spurred by Sokka's spur of the moment name.
Okay.
He even tries to get advice from, Roku, who is an avatar that lived much longer than Aang has, and Roku still has no idea how to do this either. He's still tied down to the original ideas of the avatar that each nation has to be separate.
Yep.
It's interesting that you bring that up, Vince, because we know that Mike has told us that the spirits are upset with what's happening in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because the true design of the spirits is to keep the nation separate. And the fact that they, with the whole harmony and putting nations together in Republic City is upsetting them. Maybe that's why. So you guys, this issue is called The Promise. Let's talk about what that actually means.
It seems like there's some flaws in that concept.
The reason why it doesn't make sense is that, are we just supposed to forget that energy bending now exists and that Aang can do it at will? Because he can, so why is there any need for him to kill Zuko?
And what makes Zuko think that Aang will end him, even if he promised? He didn't do it with his dad.
Yeah.
And he was this ultimate evil guy. How could he do it with one of his best friends?
Right, yeah, exactly.
And it seemed like it was too cut and dry, like black or white. Like, hey Zuko, maybe if you start going down that road, as your friend, I will try to stop it and reason with you.
Yeah, let's talk over some tea.
Even Roku, doesn't seem to understand. No, he's like, no, you promised, you gotta kill him. Well, can we talk about this, Roku? Nope, you're gonna kill him. Oh, okay, well, thanks for the advice. Did they just forget the whole, that was Aang's arc. He overcame the entire forces of the world, the avatars, everyone telling me how to do it. Well, now I guess you're gonna have to do it anyway.
Not to mention, Zuko kind of overcame his arc too. He went from the villain to a good guy, and it does seem like they're backtracking just a little bit.
I understand his motivations and I like that he's conflicted because he does want to be a good leader for his nation, but he also understands world peace and harmony and stuff. But I think that some cases he's a little he comes into the town Udao, and says, I could burn this entire city down for what you did. Okay, Zuko, man, that's kind of drastic.
All right.
Right after you save the world and you're going to go burn a city down.
Yeah, I would mostly agree with that. Other than that, we see a lot that Zuko is being put under the pressures of being the new Fire Lord. We see it in just the way he's drawn. His line, face has extra lines. He's getting thin. He's not taking care of himself.
It seems like Zuko feels like he has to go about this alone, which he doesn't. And that was the whole point of him being a part of Team Avatars, because they do things they collaborate. They work together.
Right.
Why is it that Zuko can't work with Aang to, work this out. So I just don't understand.
One thing potentially that I would hope to see is that this small conflict between Zuko and Aang sparks bigger conflict in Team Avatar. So it's not so much Zuko's the bad guy against the rest of the team. Maybe Toph agrees with Zuko. Maybe Sokka agrees with it. Maybe Katara. Maybe it's not so cut and dry, and you have these other conflicts that spring up out of the group, and so you have different people disagreeing with things who you normally, throughout the whole series, really have never really had a huge source of conflict. So I'm interested to see how that goes in the next couple issues and see if that kind of brings out more conflict.
How is Aang actually going to know that Zuko has become his father? What's the cutoff point of evil?
This is what I'm thinking. After he has challenged his son to an Agni Kai and scarred him, his goatee will grow in, and then you'll know.
Yep.
And now it's time for viewer response.
Before we ask you this week's question, let's take a look at last week's response.
That was pretty good. Nice job, guys. All right.
Now let's ask the question for this week. Ryan, what do you got for us?
Well, what I want to know is, do you think that Aang is going to eat Zuko?
I didn't know. Did we already come up with a question? Okay.
This week's question for the viewer responders is, what do you think you would do if you were in Zuko's position?
All right, you know what to do. Responses, write them down.
Good job tonight, guys. Good work.
It was good.
Yeah.
Be back.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was good to be back in saddle.
Wait, who are you? What are you even doing here?
What do you mean? I've been here the whole time.